should see it.
Well, clearly could. I mean, he could barely. That one truck could barely fit in the median.
I know.
Can people hear me at the back? Yeah. Oui, merci beaucoup. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Bonjour, Anin, Bindigan, Wache. Bonjour, bienvenue tous et toutes. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming here. We know how incredibly important this issue is to everyone. My name is Lise Vaugeois. I'm the MPP for Thunder Bay Superior North. And I want to acknowledge that we are in the territory of the Anishinaabe peoples of Northwestern Ontario, and that we are working and living on the traditional lands of Fort William First Nation, also known as an Mtiwaju. Our region is governed by the Robinson-Superior Treaty of 1850, without which most of us would not be here. We also want to acknowledge the historical contributions of Métis and Inuit people and commit to working together for a sustainable future. There's some people in the audience I want to recognize, and I have to apologize now because there's a good chance I'm going to miss some people. But Chief Alvin Fiddler is here from Anishinaabe Nation, Grand Chief. And I saw Deputy Grand Chief Bobby Narcisse here somewhere. I know that Jason Veltri is here representing the Northern Ontario Municipal Association. And I'm not sure there are any councillors here tonight.
Here, Kristen.
Oh, Kristen is there. Kristen Oliver is here. Thank you. And Kristen Oliver is also the chair of the Intergovernmental Committee, and we have certainly had conversations about the highways in that committee. I also want to recognize the work of the Chiefs of Ontario and the work of Anishinaabe Nation, the Northern Ontario Municipal Association, and the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, who have all been very active in raising the issues and proposing solutions. I also want to acknowledge the earlier work of the Northern Ontario Transportation Task Force, 2023. It's not that long ago, but somehow it feels like it was a long time ago. Co-chair was Wendy Landry, and the co-chairs and Danny Whalen. Now I want to briefly introduce my colleagues. So to my left, Saul Mamakwa, MPP from Kiwetino. Saul is also our deputy leader for the Ontario NDP. To my far right is Guy Bourgoin, the MPP for Mushkegowik, James Bay. And John Van Toff, the MPP for Timiskaming Cochrane. And of course, to my immediate right, the leader of the official opposition, NDP opposition, Marit Stiles. We're here tonight because the driving conditions are not safe on highways 11 and 17. These roads are our main streets, and they are also the only trade corridor that connects Ontario with the rest of the country. People have been working to make our highways safer for years. Probably for some people in this room, for decades. There are also people here who have had their lives changed utterly because of an accident that has taken place on one of these highways. So I want to thank those people for coming here, and we will hear some of your stories later. Our MPPs have undertaken this tour from Toronto to the last en route stop near Barrie, to North Bay, to Timmins, all the way across to the Manitoba border, and are now starting the eastward trek to Sault Ste. Marie to gather photographic evidence and a better standard of road clearing in winter. Long stretches have only 2 lanes and only half shoulders, leaving no margin for error. There are very few rest stops or heated washrooms. There's a very high volume of truck traffic, poor training of commercial drivers, minimal staffing at inspection stations, lack of oversight of the trucking industry as a whole, and so on. Many people have making the case for longer than I have, but I was looking through my files this afternoon to see who's been making the case during my 3.5 years of being an MPP. Truckers for Safer Highways, the Insurance Bureau of Canada, the Ontario Trucking Association, Women's Trucking Association of Canada, the Auditor General of Ontario, NOMA, the Northern Ontario Municipal Association, FONOM, the Federation of Municipalities of Ontario Municipalities, that's the Eastern Ontario version of NOMA, municipalities all across the north, people of Caledon, Bolton, and Brampton in Southern Ontario, CBC's Marketplace, the Lakehead Regional Safety Council, Thunder Bay City Council, Intergovernmental Committee, and on behalf of newer truck drivers who actually also want to see the industry properly regulated, the Worker Action Center and Justice for Truck Drivers. And that doesn't include all the individuals who have reached out. And yet here we are, still needing to amplify the message so that decision makers in Southern Ontario and in the federal government finally pay attention. We need action from both levels of government. This evening we want you to have a chance to share your stories. We'll hear some of what our MPPs have learned in their travels. But first I want to give Marit Stiles, leader of the official opposition, the floor. Marit, thank you for taking the time to join the tour and experience the North by driving with us all the way to Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you so much, Lise, and hello everybody. I'm Marit Stiles. I'm the leader of the official opposition and the leader of the Ontario NDP. I've been a member of provincial parliament for about 8 years, and throughout that time, I think these folks around me here have been making noise on this issue as long as I can remember, but I know it didn't even start then. It's been going on for decades. I just want to start though to say a few words in French as well. Bienvenue, merci d'être ici, tout le monde. Ce soir, c'est une opportunité de partager vos expériences, vos histoires, et c'est notre job d'écouter. Okay, so what I'm saying is, what we're here for tonight is we want to hear your stories. We want to listen, and we want to take those stories back to Queen's Park. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. I grew up in Newfoundland, born and raised, and so I know what it's like to drive down some pretty crappy roads, okay? I know what it's like to have moose jump out in front of you. I grew up with that, but I have never experienced anything or seen anything like and heard anything like the stories I hear every time I come to Northern Ontario. There is not a visit that I make to this region where I don't meet somebody who's lost somebody who's close to them. And that really hit me hard too, because I thought, my goodness, like these are the real stories that people need to hear, and I am beyond frustrated at the lack of action. Look, this is not a partisan issue. I want to be very clear with everybody here. But we did want to use the tools that we have to be able to keep putting pressure where it needs to go to get something to happen. So my job, I always say my job as the leader of the official opposition is I'm the one who sits right across from Doug Ford in the legislature. And I get to ask him the questions that everybody else wishes that they could ask. So that's what I want to do when the House comes back in a few weeks, and I'm going to keep doing it. It's one of the things I can do, but we can also bring forward laws and motions and all kinds of things. But the other thing we can do is sometimes we can use our profile to be able to generate attention for the issue. And the reason I came up here is because these good people here kept saying to me just over the last few months, we were talking about like what could we really do? Because we feel like we've tried everything, right? We feel like we've all tried everything. And we want the government, I mean, among other things, John's going to talk about this, I think, but we think that if Mark Carney and the federal government and the provincial governments want to have nation-building projects, I can't think of a more important nation-building project than fixing these highways and making them safe, right? We got thinking, and I think it was John or Guy or so, one of them said to me, the thing is, none of those those guys in Southern Ontario, those elected people, they never drive on these roads. They won't do it because it's not safe. You know what you should do, Marit? You should come up and drive with us on those roads. And so they got the idea of the tour. They started from Toronto. They've been on the road, and they've been meeting with people who've been sharing their stories. And now I'm going to join them here, and I'm going to go as far as the Sioux, and we're going to collect more stories and raise more attention. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to the media that came out tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for reporting on these issues. It's really, really important, so thank you for being here. So that's what we're going to do. But none of this, in my experience, nothing really works until we all fight together. I know you've been fighting a long time. I know you're tired of it. I know I've talked to a few people already tonight about being tired of having to come up with solutions and tell the stories. But we are going to give this a big, big push. Because I do think that if a government is talking again about what we can do, to bring our country together, to fight back, to be strong, it starts here. So we're going to do that, and with that, I want to pass the microphone over to my colleague. I think it's over to our deputy leader, Saul Mamakwa.
Thank you for coming. It was a Tuesday afternoon. It was around 2 o'clock when the three of us got on two vehicles. No, is it two vehicles? Yeah, two vehicles. And then we've been driving since then. This is our 7th day. And this is, of all the visits that we've had, this is the biggest group that we've had so far. So thank you for coming out. This road trip, the Northern Tour, is about people. It's not about us being politicians. It's about hearing the stories of the people that go through, whether you're a company, whether you have issues with the safety of people, but most importantly, the tragedies that happen to the people that we love. It's been a difficult trip. It's difficult to hear the stories of people that have lost people in these tragic accidents. I think one of the toughest days was probably a couple of days ago. We were in Thunder Bay on our way to Dryden, and we stopped over. I'd like to acknowledge Nathan. He's such a strong man. He's going through it right now. And the three of us that were there, the four of us that were there, it's real. And those are the stories that we are trying to bring. Not just, but that there's short-term things that could be in place. And our intent is to bring the attention, the safety of the highways that we drive on every day, the people that are living in, along Highway 11 and 17. So I'd like to, I'm not going to say much because this is your session. We are here to listen. I'm going to pass it over to John Vantoff from Timiskaming Cochrane.
Hi folks, my name is John Vantoff. I'm the MPP for Timiskaming Cochrane. So you're on the northwest of Ontario. My riding is Timiskaming Cochrane, right against the Quebec border. And we share a lot of the same issues. And I'm going to apologize beforehand. I laugh very easily, because the only way I go through tough issues is to be able to laugh once in a while. And I'm going to tell you how this tour started. So Saul, Guy, and I have breakfast at the legislature every morning at the same time, the same place. We're called the Breakfast Club. We're well known. And people from our own party, people from other parties stop by. And one of the people who often stops is the current Minister of Education, I met him because he was government house leader and I am opposition house leader, Paul Calandra. And Paul sat beside me and he goes, John, he says, I'm watching this show now. It's great. Like I'm addicted to it. It's called Ice Road Truckers. Have you heard of it? And I looked at him and I said, Paul, we don't need to watch Ice Road Truckers in Northern Ontario. We live it. And just for a second, the things that happened. So because of this tour, I met a real-life Ice Road trucker. He's back there, Marco Nadon, with the hat on. He's the real deal. And that's when we got the idea that we all know. I think there's been so much work done on the solutions. We all know what the solutions, and the mayors, and everybody knows what the solutions are. It's getting the will, the political will of the governments to actually implement those solutions. And so we're trying to bring our story, our Ice Road Truckers, to the public and to the politicians of all sides. Of all sides. I text Paul once in a while with some of the pictures. We also take pictures of the crazy statues in Northern Ontario. And I think we are, judging by the amount of people in this room, judging by the response we're getting. So today, on Ontario Today, that's an Ontario-wide phone-in show. The question was, should we spend big bucks on Northern Ontario highways? Ontario is talking about that, not just us. Not just us. We know that we're the weak link in the Trans-Canada system. We know because we risk it all the time. And what we're trying to do is bring your voices to the public, to the government, and make them aware and make them move. And we're going to keep on doing things to make them move, to make a movement. Thank you. One other thing, so I'll have to remind me, I'm a terrible host. So when the House comes back on March 23rd, we're going to table a motion. I'll table it. And I'm famous for not having it in front of me, so I'm just going to wing it. Basically, the motion is that, in the opinion of the House, because of to keep Canada's roads safe, to keep the country from being divided, for actually servicing the mining projects that are coming, there's a few other lines, that the province should declare the Trans-Canada Highway 1117 and 11-17 as a project of provincial significance, and work with the federal government to make it a project of national significance. Because like Marit said, there's no other project that would have a bigger impact, especially what's going on now with our neighbors to the south, than that. That motion will be debated sometime in April. And we are very encouraged and we're very hopeful that that motion will pass. And it's going to take, the motion will be a great thing. We've worked very hard for that. But it's going to take, we're going to have to keep doing things to keep this issue on the table. Because politicians promising things, we have all heard that, right? We're Northerners, we need to make the move.
We'll look at a section of our infrastructure and say, well, we need to have the 3 lanes, we need to have a median here, we need to have all this stuff, and it doesn't seem like rocket science. And how many generations does it take to move the ball down the road? And so my question for you folks that attend Kings Park is there any talk in MTO of safe systems or Vision Zero? Is that a thing?
I can answer that.
You can?
Yes.
Oh,
I'll be very short. So the person talking about the safe systems approach was Mark Wilson from my ride, Temiskaming Shores. And he actually is, I sometimes call him the father of the 2+1 because he's been the hardest pusher. And yes, I've heard it mentioned. And I'm going to be really blunt. The MTO, the politicians, they all know what is needed. The MTO keeps stats. There's something called the crash rating index. They know all about Sistonen's Corner. They keep track of every kilometer of the provincial highways. And we do a lot of research on this. And if you have a really high crash rating index in Southern Ontario, all of a sudden, it falls. Why? Because they fix something. And that chunk of highway gets safer. 20 years ago, it was just as safe to drive in Southern Ontario on average as it was in Northern Ontario was just as safe as Southern Ontario. Now, and why you're all so, like deep down you feel it? There's the two most dangerous places to drive in Ontario. You're not number one. You're number two. My riding. Between North Bay and New Usker is the most dangerous place to drive in Ontario. You're 8 times more likely to die on a provincial highway there than the average. Followed, and this is 2020, the last numbers we had, I believe, are 2022. But I'm going by memory, so I can get you the numbers. Followed closely, very closely, Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay. They know, I think it's 7 point something times. They know what we need to do. So it's been asked, is we need to keep the pressure up. Yes, the counselor from Thunder Bay, every time I get a written, the best thing to do is handwritten letters. Because there's a formula. If it's handwritten, that means that there's 100 other people thinking about it, right? But please keep track of what's going on because we're going to have to do more. This road trip we did wasn't about us. It was about publicizing the issue. Yeah, half an hour on morning, whatever that thing is, Toronto Centre, Ontario Today. I would have liked an hour. But I don't think it's ever happened before that Ontario Today is talking about should we spend big bucks on northern roads, right? I don't think, because that's mainly Toronto, right? We need to keep the pressure up. We need to keep doing things differently, like the little road trip we're taking, doing things a little bit different. Watch, I'll give you an example. I get passionate about this as you will, and this is the last time I'll talk to you. And I'll give you an example of what's going. So we all keep track of social media, right? And on average, I'm not great at social media. Saul, he's great at social media. But on average, I get 15,000 views a week that people see what I'm doing, right? And if I get 15, I think I'm doing great. Yeah. Saul was driving. And one of my staff members sent me the report of what I got, the first 4 days of this road trip. And I had to ask Saul, what does an M mean? It means 1 million views. And believe me, I don't know if the Premier is looking himself, but I'll guarantee his office is looking. Guaranteed. And we need to keep doing things to catch their attention. We need, and I said this last night, I can't remember where we were, last Kenora. A smaller meeting, but just as passionate. And we need to look for ways to take our roads back. To make people understand that we're part of this province too. And it's not going to be easy. but we need to keep doing things differently. Please stay tuned, because we're gonna keep, and this isn't about I hate it when people say this isn't partisan, because that means it is. Sorry, Wilson. But we all do things to get elected. But for this one, we're all doing things so our families across the north don't have to keep reliving the hell that families here are going through. We're going to have to organize, and catch the government, regardless of who's the government, catch them by surprise. Because the answers are out there. To Vision Zero, the answers are out there. They're out there. We don't need to provide them answers. The mayors have done that. The experts have done that. The answers are there. It's the political will.
But they don't listen. What do we do? Block a highway?
Well, that's okay. They're not listening. They're not listening because I'm not from Thunder Bay. I'm from Timiskaming. We haven't organized enough. Every time we're promised something, and you know what? I'm willing to predict. I'm willing to put a few bucks on this, that they're going to mention Highway 1117 in the budget because of the grief that we're right. But that's not enough. Because how many times have they promised something in Thunder Bay? How many times have they promised something in Timiskaming? Right? They keep promising and they keep promising, and then they give you a tidbit here and there. And I'm not going to be popular for. I'm sorry, I'm so long-winded. I'm not going to be popular for what I'm about to say. I'm often not popular. It's actually not that the people in Southern Ontario don't care. I don't believe that. I don't believe that anyone no one goes to work, whether they're a public official or wanting to do a bad job. I don't believe that. But the fact of the matter is that on the 401, there's 1 million people sitting in traffic. 1 million angry people. And they make a lot of noise. Right? And so for us, the greater us, we have to make, we know that in our job we have to fight harder, but we have to be more organized so we keep catching them by surprise. And I'm not going to say what we need to do, but we need to work together and not be placated every time, because I get the same thing. I promised this already, but I'm going to say it. So when the premier came to my riding in the last election and said, we're going to extend the 2+1 from North Bay to Cochrane. And my response was, but you can't extend something you never started. They were supposed to build a pilot project to see if it was going to work. They never built the pilot project. So you can't extend, right? So now they're building the pilot project, or at least they're starting. They're starting. But we need to keep organized. We need to keep we need to keep the views up. And a second road trip won't do it. Because we did it once, it was novel, Toronto's talking. And we're going to have to keep doing things that are novel to keep Toronto talking. And sorry I took so much space.
Walking the Nipigon Bridge.
We're going to twin that highway. How many people here have heard that for 30 years? Oh yeah, we're going to twin that highway. I was in high school. I'm 64 years old. We're going to twin that highway. Do the simple things. You know, if you can't get to that, do the simple things. Put the medians in. This is not a big deal. We could save a bunch of lives. Because you know what? I'll never be the same guy I was. I have no passion for most things. It's hard to get up in the morning. And I understand I'm not the only guy to lose a child. But for me, he was my buddy. And I don't get to see them grow up and get married and have kids. I don't get to rent a house with them. I don't get to do any of that. So, anyways, I thank you for your time. I'm so happy you're doing this. I just hope that you can get this beyond the point of what we can't do and the budget doesn't fit it. Because one other thing I want to say is that the head of transportation at the time when this happened had lost somebody in a car accident on the 400 or something by London. So we're asking to get medians here. They put an extra 2 lanes on the highway in London. Yeah, there's a bunch of lanes in London. We have 2 in Thunder Bay. Thank you.
We have Lise out with us, looking at all those fancy pumps things. Yeah. Apparently, they said a trucker. I said, "How did he hit that?" And I guess he tried to come through instead of steering. The bottom of his truck took it right over it. That's been like that for a good 2 months now. Good 2 months sitting there. I don't know.
It's a mess.
Yeah. No, this is nothing yet. Whoa,
Yeah.
Sometimes you should see it.
Well, it's clearly good. He could barely, that one truck could barely fit in the median.
I know. And then when they do have an accident, it's road closure or anything down there, they're lined up across here and this whole place packs up. And then when they have the accident, we were here one time, we live right here.
Yeah.
And we pulled over, they said they wouldn't let us go up to turn around. There was an accident past the other side of Loon.
Yep.
And they wouldn't let us go up there, so we parked here. And then we came down later, they said, a couple hours. We came down and to check the van and whatever.
Yeah.
And we asked the cop, I says, how long? And he says, maybe an hour or so. Yeah. I said, okay, we'll walk back home. You can't walk back there. The highway's closed. You can't walk there. You can't even walk in the ditch, he says. So Marie says, well, we'll walk in the other guy's property across from the bush. Well, I guess you can do that. Well, it's not a controlled access highway where you can't walk on. People live there,
Right.
But anyway. Okay, let's go in and take a look, see what they have to say in there. You can introduce yourself,
Sure.
who you are.